Can you explain a little bit about your role?
Sure. So the iStruct, as a lot of people know us as, is a 30,000 member strong organisation. We're the world's largest membership organisation dedicated to structural engineering. And in 2019, we decided to place sustainability at the heart of everything we do. So we've always had this mandate for making sure that structures are safe. There was a recognition in 2019 that also includes making sure that they are sustainable. And so my job at the institution is really to make sure that we drive that sustainability work to the heart of everything we do, from generating guidance for members through to updating the standards that we hold them to, through things like our charter membership exam, and more generally getting involved with sort of cross-industry pieces in the hope of trying to drive forward the change at an industry level, recognising that we can't just work in individual silos. You kind of need everyone to work together. So anything we do as an institution to do with sustainability, I've been involved at some point or another.
Okay. Do you feel there is enough focus on material innovations within the industry?
I think it's a really interesting time right now because material supply chains around the world have recognised that they need to decarbonise their products, and that seems to have occurred at all scales. Everything from a wall tie up to structural steel columns and beams. Everyone knows they need to decarbonise their products if they're still going to have a relevance and a place in a net zero world, which is where we have to head. So I think that yes, there is a lot of innovation happening across the industry and across lots of different parts of the supply chain. I think what I would say, and the sort of caution that comes with that, is there's different levels of innovation, and it's not always clear to the industry at what level certain innovations are happening. So there's some innovations which are great at taking the next small step forward. They're 10% lower carbon, 20% lower carbon. And then there's others which are completely revolutionary, where people have invented something that's zero carbon or even net negative. And I think that we need a bit more of industry transparency to understand where these different products sit, so they know what they can specify on a job today versus what's coming in the future, so that they can work with suppliers in the right way to maybe help accelerate future R&D or just help adopt what's out there now. And so I think whilst there's lots of interesting innovation, what we need a bit more of is that transparency and that communication to help that innovation make it onto building sites and ultimately get into our buildings as quickly as we can do.
For an industry described as slow to adapt to change, what do you feel is needed to support the change needed in the industry?
Yeah, historically we have been known as a slow to change industry, right? We're all aware of that in construction. I would say that what we're seeing right now is change that's happening a lot faster than we have historically seen, and that's something we should be proud of and we should be excited about. But I do think we need to go faster still. So a lot of materials manufacturers, a lot of developers and client bodies are talking about reductions in emissions up to 2030 to the order of magnitude of 20%, 30% reduction, maybe even 40% reduction. None of that is enough. So the IPCC has been pretty clear to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, or to give us the best chance we can, we need to halve emissions by 2030, not 20-30%. So we clearly need to go faster. Now, materials suppliers and developers are doing what they can to reduce their emissions as quickly as they can. We've got designers grappling to try and get these low carbon products onto their buildings. Some developers and clients really trying to push the agenda on their own terms on their own projects. I think the thing that's missing is a sort of level of consistency about what's being asked for and the sort of rules and the terms that everyone needs to play with it. So what we really need, I think, is regulation to help give us a consistent baseline. So if we had regulation on embodied carbon in the UK, then that would mean that we have the same limits or targets for every project in carbon terms. That would mean that the methodology for reporting it, for auditing it and so on would be the same on every project. And I think that would give the sort of acceleration that we really need to see to actually get these products through into construction a lot quicker.
You're author of a proposal for a new building regulations amendment, the industry-backed proposal for a new Part Z. This outlines requirements on the assessment of whole life carbon emissions and limiting of embodied carbon emissions for all major building projects. Can you talk us through the creation of this proposal and feedback to date?
Sure. So I start by saying that Part Z is an industry proposal. It's not a sort of governmental proposal to regulate embodied carbon. This is industry coming together to say to government and everyone else, we need to see embodied carbon regulated in the UK. It was written in 2021 And what we wrote was basically an oven-ready proposal for regulations. So it's a document that's been written in the same style as the rest of the building regulations that lays out how you could regulate whole life carbon. So it talks about limits, it talks about reporting methodologies, timing, so on and so forth. We're at the point now where over 200 companies from across the built environment have written in support of this embodied carbon regulation, and the statements of support are available on the website. So if you Google Part Z, you'll find it comes up first on your search results. And we've got support from the likes of Barratt Homes, Aberdeen Investments, NatWest. Most major contractors, engineering firms and architecture firms in the UK have supported it as well. So huge cross-industry support for this. More importantly now, it's, this topic has been raised within Westminster, within government. Jerome Mayhew, MP, put forward a private member's bill on the same topic last November. That was called the Carbon Emissions Buildings Bill. So it's now been debated in the House of Commons, which I think is probably the first time this has happened on this topic. And we know that since then conversations have been progressing at Department for Levelling Up, Department for Net Zero and so on. So it's very much on the agenda. I'm convinced that we will have a regulation on this topic within the UK within this decade. It's just a case of when rather than if.
Thank you very much for answering our questions today, Will.
No problem.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.